Good day, everyone. Today, I would like to discuss the chosen topic that I will tackle the relative deprivation theory and the general strain theory. I hope that you are fine today. Sit back and relax. And now let's start. We have the three important to knows here. I will define these three. First, what is relative deprivation? Uh, a person who will be a much worse off than they are but still feel deprived in comparison with even fortunate groups. Example of this a group of many gay people join the same-sex marriage movement in order to acquire the same legal condition of their marriage enjoyed by straight people. Now let's define the deprived. It's a not having enough of necessities of life or a lack of positive opportunities and experience. One of the example of this, a child who has never been sent to school. And the last, theory, an untested hunch or a guess without support evidence. Relative deprivation theory, as defined by social theorists and political scientists, relative deprivation theory suggests that people who feel they are being deprived of something considered essential in their society. Example, money, rights, political voice, status, will organize or join social movement dedicated to obtaining the things of which they feel deprived. Now, here in the history of relative deprivation theory, development of the concept of relative deprivation is often attributed to the American sociologist Robert K. Merton, who studied of American soldiers during World War II, revealed that soldiers in military police were far less satisfied with their opportunities for promotion than regular GIs. And now, in the notable person, Sir Walter Rauschenberg, born on November 19, 1870, and died on November 14, 1949. In proposing one of the first formal definitions of relative deprivation, British statesman and sociologist Walter Rauschenberg listed four required conditions. We have here a person does not have something. Second, the person knows to other people who have the thing. The third, that person wants to have the thing. And the last, that person believes they have a reasonable chance of getting the thing. Rauschenberg also drew a distinction between linguistic and paternalistic relative deprivation. According to Rauschenberg, linguistic relative deprivation is driven by an individual feelings of being treated unfairly compared to other in their groups. It as defined the linguistic from the word itself, egoism, being centered or preoccupied with oneself and the gratification of one desire or self-centered. For example of this, an employee who feels they have should gotten promotion that went to another employee may feel egoistically, relativity deprived, in the presence of linguistic relative deprivation, or we can relate on the criminology or crime. For example of this, Julius may commit a crime which is liable to a punish of false information towards Kurt to eliminate from possession. Now, on the paternalistic relative deprivation is more often associated with massive groups, social movements like the civil rights movements. Example of this, feeling on envy felt by a middle class individuals when they see people on television portrayed as being middle class, driving luxury cars. and wearing design clothes. Another example, the racial discrimination before in the American, only only white American people can only join in the armed forces in the United States, and the black people are not allowed because they have believed that white white people are more superior than black. To better to understand this, the linguistics is subjective that focus on the individual interest, while on the paternalistic relative deprivation is more objective where focus on a social group or group of people of common interest. Relative deprivation theory in our present time. Deprivation theory was first described by Robert Merton in state the social movements in arise among poor people deprived. In the present time of RDT or the relative deprivation theory, occurring nowadays to be more specific in social media, you see a picture of your childhood friend that's successful. So first come to your mind is envy. So you have to try to compete her and him and compare your status on her and him status. And being desperate, you can commit a crime in order to exalt from the is relative deprivation theory versus general strain theory. Relative deprivation theory possesses that individuals who perceive themselves as having fewer resources than others will often act in ways to obtain these resources. While on the general strain theory is the idea that when social pressure is placed on those who do not have the means to follow it and succeed, they may turn to crime and other deviant behavior. Now let's go on the general strain theory. We have here the two words that important to know and so let us define the strain. A force a force tending to pull or stretch something to an extreme. Uh, like an anger or emotion of example of this strain. While on the general strain theories state that certain strain or stressors increase the likelihood of crime. These traits lead to negative emotion, such as frustration and anger. In this, example of this is emotion create a pressure or corrective action and crime is possible to respond. The strain theory is those people who use illegal drugs to make themselves feel better, or a student assaulting his peers to end the harassment they cause. Now let's next on the story. Strain theory is sociology in criminology theory developed in 1938 by Robert K. Merton. Theory states that society puts pressure on the individuals to achieve socially accepted goals such as the American dreams. Thought they lack the means. Now on the notable person. Robert King Merton was an American sociologist who argued that society can encourage deviance to a large degree. And also, Robert King Merton, also known as the founding father of modern sociology, believed that socially accepted goals put pressure on people to conform. His, his theory was developed largely to the social and economic circumstance occurring in the United States during in the early 90s. And also, Merton added that When individuals are faced with a gap between their goals, usually monetary, and their current status, s- strain occurs when individuals are faced with strain. An anonymous theory outlined five different ways that they respond. First, conformity. Pursuing cultural goals through socially approved means most common, hopeful poor. Second, innovation. Accepting society goals but designing their own means for achieving them, often using socially unapproved or unconventional means to obtain culturally approved goals. Example, dealing drugs or stealing to achieve financial security, surviving poor. Third, ritualism, using the same socially approved means to achieve less elusive goals, more modest and humble, the passive poor. Fourth, retribution, to reject both the cultural goals and the means to obtain it. They find a way to escape it, retreating poor. And the last, rebellion, to reject cultural goals and the prescribed means to achieve them, then work towards replacing both of them, resisting poor. Let's tackle on Robert Agnew. The main idea of general strain theory is that people who experience strain or stress become a distress or upset, which may lead to them to commit a crime in order to cope. It's simpler to understand motivation of crime is gained through emotion. Next, according to Agnew, there are three main reasons. There are three main reasons for divines producing strain. First, we have the failure to achieve a goal. Example of this is if a guy is failed to become a Latin honor. That is the example of the failure to achieve a goal. And the second, the removal of positive impulses. Example of this is the death of parent and the end of relationship, the existence of harmful impulses. Example of this, a guy who have a problem in her school. Concept of generality was developed to conceptualize the full range of source in society where strain possibly comes from. State that certain stressor increase the likely on the crime. This may lead to negative emotion and anger anger and anger. Four characteristics that leads to a crime. Uh, First, we have the when a strain is seen as an adjust. Second, when a strain is perceived as being high in magnitude. Third, when a strain has been associated, real or perceived, with low levels of social control. And the last, what a strain creates pressure to engage in coping that includes criminal conduct. Now, on the general strain identifies various types of delinquent adoption. Crime may be used to reduce or escape from strain. An example of this instrumental, Julius stole a food in store, or Julius stole a food on 7-Eleven to reduce his anger because his parents don't provide a food. On the and the retaliatory, it may also use to seek revenge against the source of strain or related target. Example of this is Kurt is bullied by Denver, and so Kurt attacked Denver to revenge. And third, escapist, elevate negative emotion. Example, Denver used drugs to escape from his depression. General strain in delinquency. According to the research conducted by John D. Lastly, recent strains in injustice have significant effects on delinquency. General strain theory in delinquency is not only for the minor but also for the adult, as long that someone experiencing negative emotion, low strain, vulnerable to commit a crime. Because while we are experiencing an anger or a negative emotion, we act immediately and we are out on carefully thinking that can lead to us to commit a crime. And thank you, ma'am and sir, for watching. Hopefully you learn.